you for being here today. I did this a while back. I think when I first started the channel. I haven't done one for a long time now, so I am intending to do this weekly. If you've caught my top 10, well, my top 30 games of all time, Warhammer came top. So the plan is to run through quite a lot of the Warhammer books. I originally did the core rule book, and then I did Up in Arms. So tonight I'm going to do Winds of Magic, because those three to me are essential. You can't play 4th edition. Well, you can play 4th edition, but you shouldn't play 4th edition without those three core rule books, because Up in Arms dramatically changes the advantage, which the original advantage in the 4th edition core rule books are kind of poor, using group advantage. But what Winds of Magic does for the spell system is it just allows those casters to be involved, important, and useful in combat. Because in the original rules, as 4th edition rules as written, you're going to find with the channeling rules that you're just going to spend so long trying to get your spell actually going that you don't actually do anything. A lot of the time the combats are actually over. So that is the reason for going through these books. Next week I'll probably do another Warhammer book. I think I've got about 30 books to go through, so I could go through a lot, but I will intersperse it with other books. And obviously, if you ask me in comments, anything you see behind or PDFs that I might have, if you want me to run through anything like that live, then I'm more than happy to go through it. So this week's book episode is going to be Winds of Magic by Cubicle 7, which is for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th edition. So I said, this is a comprehensive guide to the arcane practices taught by the colleges of magic. So if you haven't got this book, to me, it's an essential book. You do need it. Well, you at least need the magic rules when it comes to it, because if you want your spellcasters, I think magic is probably one of the most fun aspects of Warhammer, especially 4th edition. 2nd edition as well, but it's a very complicated thing to sort of bring. So I would just throw it out there. If you're new to Dungeon Mastering or you're new to playing, probably don't let one of your players start as a mage. Do it slowly. Maybe do 1 or 2 adventures, learn the rules together, and then allow someone to go down the magic rules, because it's just an added level of complexity. To me, it's quite a deep game. There's lots of rules, lots of tables and stats and things like that. It's one of the reasons I love it, all the random tables. But you kind of, if you've got a dungeon master that's really good, really patient, then I think you could do it, but I just avoid it for now. So, right, let's get into this book, and then we'll explain what the difference is, why you should have it. Well, I'm not going to go through the differences, actually. I'll just go through the benefits of this new rule book. So here we go. So starting off, I'm going to do the 2-page click through one at a time. So it's designed by Dave Allen, who I always think is a comedian from the 80s, Steve Darlington and Variety. I'm not going to read out all these names, do not worry, and then the illustrations. But the content is nicely laid out for me. I love this as a dyslexic. It's nice and easy. All the chapters are laid out. They've got numbers under the words, which took me a while to notice this on Cubicle 7. But once you've noticed it, it does become a little bit easier to sort of follow the book there. So we've just got the background behind sorcery and how it all happened within the Empire, revised rules for spellcasting, essential, arcane activities and new careers, and so I know all the endeavors are in the new rules, aren't they? I was going to say the downtime rules are in there, but the arcane activities, some new skills. We then get into the 8 winds of magic, which we'll go into a little bit of a deep dive on where they are. Arcane artifacts, magical creatures, the winds at work, and then we've got some magical nemesis and some adventures, which I think is always good when you pick up a source book to have a couple of adventures. One thing actually, well, I'll point it out when we come on to it, because one thing that Cubicle 7 does really well, especially the Warhammer books, is they have little hooks, the adventure hooks in like little paragraphs. So that's a really good thing. But you'll see the numbers here in the top right-hand corner correspond to the chapter numbers. So if you want to flick through really quickly when you're going through the contents, it's not quite as good as Pathfinder, which has got the like the section at the side. But for me, and I think for most people, it's really good. If you want to get onto magical artifacts 1.5, you can either look at the page, or you can just scroll through. Like if you imagine physically flicking through the book. I won't do it with my book, but you can do it with yours, and it will just flick you through to wherever you want to be. Alternatively, you could obviously grab this and go down. So, right. That's quite a nice layout for me. I like things like this. So I am not going to read the background into magic, but one thing to bear in mind when you're running Warhammer is the magic. People that cast magic spells, it's still seen, because magic comes from the realms of chaos and Zench effectively, and it's only in recent years, so the last sort of 500 to 1,000 years, that have actually not burned at the stake, which is for spell casting. And it all descends from, it was about 1,000 years ago. So we've got 2302, so actually 200 years ago, because we're in 2508, aren't we, which is the current year. So it's about 200 years ago, things changed. And you have here Magnus the Pious, who was the emperor, and basically there was a war in the northern part where and all of humanity was almost wiped out, and they actually realized that they're going to need to use magic to fight off the hordes of chaos. So Teclis and Magnus the Pious basically came together. Teclis was like the grand patriarch, and they formed the colleges of magic in Altdorf. And from there, basically, like the Jedi, if you think of, it's very much got that Jedi feeling to it. So if anyone is found to have magical spell casting or powers or sixth sight, effectively, you are encouraged to come into the colleges of magic, and then you will specialize down into whichever wind that you are good at or you prefer to go through. Again, I'll come on to the winds and how all that works as we go through. But so, this area goes like the persecution of the wizards prior to Magnus. Say here we've got is all the persecutions, them being burned at the stake over the years. And then once you got into the big Magnus and Teclis forming the colleges, say people, normal sort of peasant folk will still see mages because of the corruption in the world of Warcraft in the world of Warhammer. It's very easy to cast spells and then become chaos corrupted as time goes on. So, which is why people still don't like magic really in the world. So here we've got the 8 winds, which will come on to, and they do have opposites. It's not really a full-blown opposite, but they tend to be one college will really dislike the color that's opposite to it. So this is effectively light and dark, which is sort of life and death. If you play Magic the Gathering, it gives you a quite good idea how some of the colors work and what the sort of spells they cast. So you've got a section here about arcane corruption. So as you are casting spells, when things go wrong, so you get minor or major mishaps, you do become more corrupted. There's a good example in here that talks about, if you think that you're a fighter standing at the front line, you do risk dying as a magic user, especially the fire magic, which is Ashby, I think it's called. They are very heavily thrown into the army and fighting the battles. And the problem is when you miscast a spell, you can end up just burning your soul forever. But it is more fun. The magic is more fun. So the new rules. If you want your spellcaster, if your player character to have become magical or touched by magic, you should say, then you need to get the talent second sight and start player characters off without it. Few adventures in or a few weeks in, as you've learnt the rules, allow them to have second sight, and then they can get recruited into the schools of the colleges. And you can make it a bit fun, or you can just do downtime where it happens so it doesn't quite bore the rest of the players. But that's your main way in. So second sight is the essential part of it. 2 types of spellcasting. You can memorize the spells, which you'll spend XP to either learn petty magic or arcane talents. Petty magic is like 5th edition cantrips. Apart from anybody with second sight can learn petty magic. Arcane magic comes from your wind. We'll come on to that. You can cast from grimoires. Grimoires are magical books. Again, like 5th edition, with the spellcasting for wizards that, you know, they've got their spell books. You can just take it from there and then, you know, cast from the grimoires. There are a few things here. So if you are casting from a grimoire, the CN number, the casting number is doubled, which basically represents how many levels, because it's going to be longer to cast, harder to cast, because you're unfamiliar with that spell. You need both hands free, but we'll come on to that once we get into it. So all spells, anatomy of spells, will have a CN number, so a casting number, the range, so how far out you can cast it, the target, so whether it's individual, area, effect, etc. Duration, how long it lasts for. Description, what the spell does. To cast a spell, you simply make a language magic test, and if the spell test is successful, so if you roll under your skill roll, and then you will get success levels, and the amount of success levels you roll need to beat the CN number. So if you've got a spell that is a CN of 2 and you've got a skill of 40 and you roll a 20, that's going to give you at least 2 levels of SL, which means you're going to be able to cast that spell. Typically, I've got a really bad cough tonight and a horrible throat. If you roll a double when casting, you can do critical casting, which again, doubles are I'm assuming you know the system where you wouldn't be watching this video, but you're rolling a D100, and if you roll 5-5 or, you know, double 4, double 3, double 2, you still need to succeed at the spell roll. And if you roll a double, you can do things like additional damage, reduce the costing, etc. However, if you fail it in double, you're going to fumble the casting, and then you're going to go onto the minor cast table. And it's weird. This book says go to the main rule book on page 253, or you can go here with another minor miscast table. So roll on to page 24 and 25 with the minor and miscast tables. So they're already in this book. It's got you covered. A little bit of details about magic and the damage here. So magic missiles are damage causing spells. They are petty magic as well. When a missile is successfully cast, reverse the dice roll just to get the hit location. So it works exactly the same as combat. So if you roll a 45, I know you said 44, then you'll hit location 54. So it just works it out. So random vortices. So some spells have got the random vortex text in the description, and that basically just means there's going to be an area when you do the casting, there's a chance that a random vortex comes out, and it does move around and can do some things as per the spell description. So you'll look at that as you cast spells with it. Touch spells, if you've got a spell with a range of touch, just again like 5th edition, you need to make an opposed melee roll to do it. There are some spells that allow you to use things like pole arms and swords, so you can touch them with it. If the spell's got any ingredients, you can have major. Some of the ingredients will actually help you reduce some of the miscasts. Spellcasting limitations: spells must be spoken or sing to cast. So if you can't speak, your mouth is over something along those lines, it is going to make it more difficult to cast, which means the CN number will go up. Advantage applies to casting tests, but not to channeling tests. We'll come on to channeling very, very soon. If a target already has a spell from the same lore cast that round, the spell caster gains +1 advantage when casting. So that's going to make it easier if it's already happened. So channeling is what you do to boost your CN number. So you'll make a challenging test against the challenging skill, and the more SLs you pass by will reduce the CN number. So for when you come to cast it, you'll then be able to cast the spell easier. So I'm going to skip on so you can see what I mean. Let me just find some spells here. So for example, this Metal Mended. So it's got a CN of 4. So that means you've got to pass by 4 spell levels to pull this spell off, which is what made the original rules for Warhammer really difficult. But what this means now is you can do a channeling test every level that you pass by. So if you, let's say you've got a 6, skill of 60, and you roll a 30, that's going to give you, do the maths quickly, that's actually, no, let's do 31. That's going to give you 3 levels, because 30 is going to give you 4 levels. This is going to get the CN level down to 1 or 0 if you go 31 or 30. So it's going to be a nice, easy pass when you come to do your main casting. Let me make sure I'm going back. So when you're doing your casting test, it's not going to be difficult. You're going to just standard pass to get through. So remember, casting casts the spell, channeling makes the spell easier to cast. So if you can critical on the channeling, but that doesn't add to your casting, none of that does, but it does do things. So you can still fumble channeling, which is going to give you miscast. If someone tries to interrupt you, hits you, surprises you, anything along those lines, again, makes it more difficult. You can make a hard cool test not to be affected by the channeling. We've got things like Warpstone that will affect it. It will mean that you can actually ramp up the power of your spells by using Warpstone. Don't do it. You're going to corrupt yourself. Well, actually do it because it's funny. So dispelling, so you can dispel different people's spells, so you can do opposed tests to sort of dispel the spell as well. Overcasting, so when you cast a spell, if you generate more success levels beyond those required to cast the spell, you can have quite a lot of fun with it, and you get to the overcast table. So depending on what you do, you can do 1 additional target, extra damage, extra range, extra area effect, or longer. You know, it's really up to you as to what you want to do when you generate. So you can generate channeling to make things easier, to then give you more chance to cast and overcast for additional effects. So just remember that when you're playing the magic users, because hopefully from this you'll go and play magic users. When you fumble a roll, a casting roll or channeling roll, or if you critically fail it, you will go onto the minor casting table. If you do really badly, so you roll really high on the minor, you can end up on here, the major casting table. You know, so Soulfire, you know, gain under blaze condition. So you are wreathed by unholy flames with the color associated to your lore. That'll all make sense, the color bit, once we get to the winds, okay? Because each wind has a color. Not that you can see it. You can feel it, but you can't see it. But it'll all make sense. Don't worry. Speaking tongues, you garble intelligently for unintelligently for 1d10 rounds. During this time, you cannot communicate verbally or make casting tests. Brilliant. See, this is why Warhammer is my #1 game of all time. I just love random tables. It just takes the pressure away from the dungeon master. Especially, I always let my players roll their own random tables. Roll your own fate. I don't know. I play games sometimes, and the dungeon master roll. They goes, "Oh, you know, you're on it. I'll roll it." So you just don't let the player roll as often as possible. I try to roll as little as I can as a dungeon master. We're then going to get a load of new spells. So arcane spells. So these are just related to the arcane magic. They're not related to any winds, so you don't need to. Excuse me, sorry. So these are spells that anyone can cast. We'll then you've got some more rituals. So the main rulebook's got some. So these are just more it's going to give you. And then, so if you look at the arcane spells, the ritual spells, so this one's got a CN of 50. So they are bigger, longer, harder to cast. You could quite easily be interrupted while you are casting it. Takes great effort. You get learning XP. Great effort to commit to a ritual to memory, and the more complicated and the harder it becomes. So they are harder to learn. So, and very costly. So 400 XP for this bind monstrous beast. So you're going to need a skull or hide of the same species. You buy the layer, and the beast becomes immediately aware that someone has tried to enslave them if it goes wrong. So what does it do? If the creature is successfully bound, it serves you for the willpower bonus days. You don't even get to keep it forever. 400 XP to learn. It's going to be quite hard, equal to the beast's number of wounds. So let's say the beast has got 60 or maybe even 100 wounds. It's going to take quite a while. People are just going to have to fight it off while you're going on. So controlling elements. These little boxes in all the books they just give you, well, Wizards of the Coast do it as well. So it's nothing new here. Once an arcane incarnate element has been summoned to you, you must win an opposed will strength test against the creature control it. Uncontrolled elements attack the nearest creature until they're destroyed. So you can summon elementals. Well, yeah, you're not going to want to summon the elemental. Well, if you need to, but you've got to then make sure you get that opposed willpower strength test, or that the elemental of death's coming for you. So that is rituals. Yeah, creating familiar as a ritual. There's a huge section about familiars at the end of the book. We'll come on to that. Familiars are great fun. There's a section that I'd say ignore, because you can be a player character and be a familiar if you want. I wouldn't, just me personally. But if you want to, you can. This book's got you covered. So again, more rituals going on. And then we've got arcane activities section here, section 3. So new careers. So we've got a few new careers in here, and then each of the winds actually has a career as well. So, which is good. It shows you where to. So, if you roll a character, randomly roll a character up in Warhammer, you, depending on what you roll on the D100, will determine ultimately what career you have. You don't have to have it, but I like to go with whatever I randomly roll just because it's funny, and you get more experience to, you know, change your character or personalize your character, I should say, at the end. So this will just show you where things like the mundane alchemist is going to slot in, the magister vigilant, the scryer, and the beadle. So these are the 3. So if you were to roll a guard, for example, on the warrior, you then, if you re-roll again, if you roll a 76 or to a 0, you get to be the beadle if you roll the guard. So here we have is the beadle. I'm not going to explain how careers worked and how the career paths work, because that was covered in my previous live video. So if you just go and look for that in the live section, but it does tell you. So dwarfs, halflings, and humans can be these. So you're a specialist guard, balance, vigilance, and strong arm with the dignity expected of the institution you protect. So you're professors of Altdorf, wizards of the College of Magic tend to lose themselves in studying, and you're basically someone that is going to protect the college, or colleges, because there are 6 colleges. This is what I'm saying about the hooks. So we've got Beadle about here. So the hooks will give you, technically it's an adventure hook, mini little adventure or an encounter just to get your players going. So the previous Beadle of the Jade College has disappeared, presumed dead. With the spring equinox rite coming up, the patriarch of the college is hard pressed to replace her. There are several candidates, and to find out the best one, he sets several challenges for them, but not all candidates play fair. So it's just, so it's nothing massive, but it's just to give you an idea of things to do. So we've got a mundane alchemist here. So alchemists should be aware, fantasy game, they're going to make or concoct stuff. You can make fool's gold in this and pay for things on it, but make sure you're in a different city or town once it turns back to whatever it was. That's just a warning. It's never happened to my, it has happened to my players. Then we've got the Magister Vigilant, which is really interesting one. I like this one. So even though the patriarchs of the college refuse to confirm their existence, the lowliest apprentice wizards have heard of the Magister Vigilant, mages who seek out to destroy those that have broken the oath and betrayed the order. Now, I'm not a Harry Potter fan, but I'm sure there must have been people in Harry Potter that went to seek out the wizards that were breaking the wizards' rules. This is it. It's a witch hunter for wizards. What's not cool about that? Again, a little hook there if you want to play them. And then we've got finally the scryers, which this is a weird one to throw in. I think, you know, a scarce few humans possess the ability to look back into the past and see what happened at specific locations. So it's allows you to sort of go back and scry, and it then goes on about how rare they are, and they get their use of tools, and it comes through visions, etc. Might be interesting to some people. It doesn't overly appeal to me. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. I think there are better. You know, if you're going to go down the magic rules, then there are better things to play. So we've got some new arcane skills. So all of these skills are advanced skills. I think augury is advanced. Yeah, psychometry is advanced, and alchemy. Oh, alchemy isn't it? Oh, yeah. It depends whether you do the mundane alchemy or the high alchemy. Yeah. Okay. So, augury spell is to glean the insights of the future. So this will allow you to as it says, into the future, and you've got random tables depending on the successes of what you got will give you different symbols to go and discover things that are going to happen. I always find this weird, seeing into the future in any game, because it puts a little bit of added pressure to me onto the dungeon master. I don't overly like my players to have those sort of things, but it's in here if you want it. Psychometry, it's an advanced skill, and this is the skill that the scryers are going to use to speak to the spirits to go backwards. Then alchemy is divided into the mundane alchemy, which is a very basic skill, so anyone can do it, but it doesn't give you incredibly powerful alchemical formulas and products. But if you want the high alchemy, which revolves around adding a little bit of magic to it, it then allows you to create far better and more interesting magical potions. Right, we are then straight into the winds. And this is one thing the book doesn't do very well. So you go here from chapter 3 to chapter 4, and it doesn't sort of go, we're into the winds now. So, but you are. So we've got 8 different winds, and each wind will have a color. So we've got the white wind of magic. They've got their own symbol as well. We've got some symbols, some focuses, some study, and the title of who is the top of that. So we've got Hush here, the white wind of magic and the law of light. I'm not going to tear this apart, if that makes sense, but light magic is roundabout life and healing. So you've got here, we've got the a specific career for it. Oh, I should have said at some stage that to be magical in this world, to have Senksai, in general, you've got to be human or elf. That's it. And humans can only ever, actually, it makes sense to do this. So here, do this at this point. So it's 8 winds or schools of magic that you can go to. Humans aren't clever enough, mentally strong enough to cast spells from any other wind. So if you play a human and you're going to be a caster, you pick a wind and you're stuck with that wind throughout the whole until that character is retired off or died. Still retiring it off. As an elf, which is why a lot of people play elves, not only have they got better stats, they're harder to roll. I think you need that's about 2% chance or 3% chance to be an elf if you do the actual rolling. But they can pick spells from multiple winds because they've been casting magic for thousands of years, and they're more of affiliated. I can't speak properly with magic. Affiliated with magic. That is right. So yeah. So if you want to be a true spellcaster and cheat a little bit, go with the elf. If you want to have, it's be a little bit harder on you, people. But no one really likes elves either. So you have got that sort of weird, sort of racist dynamic in Warhammer. So it will make adventuring or going into human cities harder if people do play elves. But yeah, so here we go. So if you're going to go through, if you want to be more of a healing type caster, then this is where you go. Each wind will have a little bit of discussion. So Hush is the lightest winds of magic, so floating high in the air, and it drifts from the warp gates all over the old world. So you can't see it, but you can sense it. So it is like a physical wind, and you do see the magic sort of dispersing in and around. Not see it, but you can feel it around. Each of the schools as well, or winds, will have a arcane mark. So I would encourage the players to roll on this, and then it's going to give you something, a bonus or a disadvantage. And some of the times it can actually be a physical, so people can actually see. We'll then just talk about the college itself, and then the relationship with the schools that it hates. So chaos, the powers of chaos stand for everything white wizards abhor. Where Hush stands for enlightenment, order, and healing. Chaos stands for obfuscate, disorder, and destructions. White wizards are sworn to fight chaos in all its forms. And then we've got the main Patreon here so this is the main Hierophant, Ashamira Dib, who's basically the head of that college. And then each school or college or wind, then we'll also have a load of additional spells. So either 2 or 3. So we've got Shaman, which is the gold, which is the wind of magic and law of metal, which allows lots of transmutation when you get into the spell. So you can play a full-blown alchemist. So that's going to allow you to make the really good potions. The potion section coming up is really good. So again, you've got the marks, a little bit about the college itself, the description of what you can feel with the wind, and then the main Patreon here is Gout. And then we've got more spells like Guilty Cage, Golden Touch. After casting the spell, the next living creature you touch transforms into a golden statue. I just pick one at random. That sounds horrible or fun in the middle of a combat. That would just get rid of someone and make the action economy back down to you. Hello, Agile Monk. Sorry, I've just noticed a comment. Sorry, I don't know how long that's been there for, but thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Great to see you. Feel free to ask any questions as I go along if you've missed anything. So I'm quite happy to take questions as I'm doing this. Then we've got Gorain, which is the wind of magic and law and life. So more healing, growth, but more importantly, out in the wilderness. So this is druid type spells and spell casting. I'm just saying about if you play Magic the Gathering. Oh, no, good. I'm glad. I always love it when people tell me that. Well, not only do I love all comments, but people say they're enjoying my channel. So thank you. And thank you for being here, watching me live go through this. Thanks for taking the time out of your day, evening, or night, whenever it may be. So druids, say we've got, again, description of the wind, the college itself, the things that the relationships and the stuff that they like and dislike, along with the Patreon, some 3 different hooks here. If you're playing a druid character, doesn't that look like Gillian Anderson? Just going to put it out there. And so we've got spells like Fat of the Land. You flood the target's body with nourishing Gyra. The target need not eat or drink, but still excretes as normal. Great, isn't it? You don't need to eat. But you still need to go and have a poo. Forest of Thorns. This spell only targets a patch of earth. You cause a dense knot of wickedly spiked barbs and tangled vines to burst upwards, covering an area effect. It's going to make it difficult for people to get through. The blue magic, which is the wind of magic and laws for heaven, which sounds rather dull until you get into, this is your lightning bolts. So yeah, it's got the astromancy class, and you think, okay, it's not quite as good as maybe not others, but it's, as you can see, it's got some aggressive spells in here. So don't be shocked if you come up against someone that is of a blue mage persuasion and uses thunderstorms to just obliterate you and the area effect you're in. Okay, so the grey wind of magic and the laws of shadows. This is a nice one because this is about sort of sneaking away, hiding. You've got the Shadowmancer here, but they've got lots of hiding in the sort of second, it's not the second world, so to speak, but it allows them to teleport and travel really fast with things like Bridge of Shadows, where they can just see distances and teleport across different distances. So you choking shadows, you wrap a shadowy tendrils of Uruk around your foes' necks. Assuming they need to breathe, they suffer 1 fatigue condition. So it's very much Darth Vader. Yeah. I find your lack of faith disturbing, and then just crush their throat. Kind of. So we've got Shyish, which is the amethyst color, the law of death. Okay, so one thing to bear in mind in this is death is not necromancy. Okay, it just say it here. Okay, but the law of death is looking at spirits and speaking to the dead, and it's along those lines. Okay, but you can be a necromancer if you want to. The downside is, if anyone finds out you're a necromancer, you're going to have the people from the colleges hunting you. You're going to have the witch hunters hunting you. You're going to have the players in the party trying to kill you unless they decide everyone wants to be evil. I'm not saying you shouldn't play a necromancer, because necromancers can be some of the most entertaining characters to play, as long as the rest of the party is in on it, and you kind of need to speak to your dungeon master first if you want to go down that route. If you don't, this might not be the most interesting of wind to go through, but you could do it on the quiet and to see how long you can get away with it for. But you can also steal life. You know, this does allow you to basically crush a character's heart and just kill them instantly. So it's not all nice. And then the one that I think everyone's always waiting for, it's always the first thing you think of if you're going to be a magic user. Can I do fireball? Can I do anything? So here you go, Ashai. Let's go with that. It's always fun when a dyslexic goes, do you know what? I'm going to try and read out lots of words. They are, red for fire. These are, it's actually the fire college that is thrown into battles. They tend to be the one that join all the armies to sort of stand at the back, massive fireball, get rid of hordes of chaos or whoever it is that they're hunting to fight. The bright college bit, there's a bit in there as well in Altdorf where it talks about round the college there's loads of sort of burnt out buildings because of miscasts and things going wrong when the students are learning how to control their fire. And as you'd imagine, boil people's bloods, body of fire, quarter eyes, which is nice, flaming heart, firewall, fire, flamestorm, flaming sword of rune, crown of flames. Maybe it's just me that thinks this is the exciting one. It's not the most, but if you're going to go out and want to have a lot of mass destruction, this is where you want to be. If you want to have fun with animals, which I've just realized how that sounds, you've got the last wind, which is Gur, which is the amber wind, which is the law of beasts. And this allows you to have shaman, so you can talk to animals, shapeshift right at the end. So if you want to play a weir creature or were creature, depending on where you're from, bears, wolves, etc., it does allow you to shapeshift into these. Allows you to say talk to animals, beast unbroken. You can heal them if you want beast form here, and beast mastery, etc. in here, summon mount, so all anything to do with animals. And then you've got beast form and other transformation spells, and it gives you a little bit of more interesting rules there. We'll then get into the magical artifact section. So if you're a wizard, you're going to want a robe. Main reason you want a robe is it's going to make casting spells easier depending on the rarity of your robe. Just go and get one if you can afford it. Spells will enchantment staffs will, bear with me, sorry. Again, you can put spells in with them, and they can be aligned to the winds. Scrolls you can summon, you can cast spells off scrolls, and you can write spells into scrolls to make it easy for you. Magic potions, yeah, it is coming on the next page. So alchemy and magic potions kind of go hand in hand in this game. You don't necessarily need the advanced alchemy, so the basic alchemy or some of the potion skills in there. So this gives you how you make potions. But using potions, I love this bit. Say, again, it's random tables. Let the player roll it themselves. So they want to drink a healing potion, whatever it may be. So using a potion is easy. You drink it. Once you've swallowed it, the GM rolls the potion spoilage chant. Don't roll this as GM. Let the player do it. This table uses the potions age in seasons and the success level scored in brewing to determine how likely the potions are to have gone bad. And then you get this table here, the potion spoilage chance, which, depending on how many successes you've got, determines the chances of how old it is of it actually doing what it's meant to do. How cool is that? Well, from a player's point of view, it's not cool. But if it's 17 years old, let's just take the most extreme example. You're going to need 6 success levels, and you've still only got a 30% chance that it's not going to spoil. If you get none, it's 65%. So this is good. And then when it does spoil, you can roll another d100, depending on whether you've got a minor, moderate, major, or extreme volatility to it. Will determine whether you're going to have vapors or itchy bits, or tingles or mind slips, and then it just explains in here what all the keywords are. So warts, small and comfortable lumps of thick flesh appear on the drinker's face, hand, and elsewhere. They impose a -1 SL to dex-based tests, and minor effects last for a day. I would not tell the players how long they last for. I never do when my players are poisoned in Warhammer. I just have so much more fun by just saying, this has happened, this is where you are, and you just let them play with it, and then you just write it down, then eventually it'll all disappear off. Brewing potions, this will tell you how to brew potions, the ingredients that you need. Brewing skill tests, so you've got alchemical tests down here, or herbs, or channeling, depending on what you want to do. Then you've got your catalogue of potions, so the different potions, how much it's going to cost to get the ingredients, the difficulty, the success levels that you need, and what it's going to do, how long it takes to cast them. So we've got lots of different spells here. So Nectar's Beauty is going to give you more SL levels when you are doing fellowship rolls. There is, you can fly, fortune, invisibility. Grimoires are, we said earlier, so you can cast spells from grimoires, and you've got this box here to remember if they are. So this is just a book with spells in. So the grimoires typically contains 4 spells or 1 ritual, so it doesn't contain a lot. It's not a massive spell book. Doubles the CN number of the spell because the player isn't used to casting it. The CN of the ritual is 4 times it would normally be. So if you think back to that beast example where we needed, say, 50 or 100, you could be looking at 200 or 400 CN, so it's going to take you a long time to get through. Still, but both hands free, so you got the book out in front of you. Obviously, you're still going to need to be able to talk and everything else that goes on with it. So you can cast them, but it's going to give your players a little bit more and things to cast from. Gives you some random grimoires here, and then you've got some famous ones. There's 4 sort of famous books you can have them find or discover or go out and look for from an event point of view, or just give them a random one. Power stones, depending on the different color of the wind, will be a different color, and these will help players cast spells or increase the power of the spell. My favorite section in every magic book is this, cursed items. I love cursed items. I love giving players cursed items. They're just fun. I don't give them out. I'm not horrible, but I do enjoy a cursed item. I did it in a 5th edition campaign. They were trying to steal. Well, they were trying to give rubbish items in exchange for a bag of holding to a very intelligent shopkeeper. So instead of giving them a bag of holding, he gave the players a bag of devouring instead. And the players didn't notice. I gave them a chance to notice it. They didn't. And so in the middle of a combat, the archer went to get his arrows out of his bag of holding because he'd run out in his quiver. And he then just got sucked into the bag of devouring. And the kind of everything went chaotic from there. So this is why I like giving out cursed items just now and again to bring the players sometimes back in check when they're trying to do. There's got to be a repercussion for trying to lie or cheat throughout the world, I think. Magical creatures. So we've got some elementals here that if you could summon from the rituals as well. Magical constructs. So as a magic user, you can create constructs. You can do it yourself, or you might want to get, if you want a really impressive one, you might want to get an experienced artisan to do it. But you can have things like bodyguards, home guards. Oh, what's that doing there? That are going to come and help. Laborers or soldiers. So if you need someone to go and build a wall or whatever it may be, I'm not horrible, but yeah, okay. I have my players have been said that I can be quite cruel as a dungeon master, and I don't think it's cruel. It's life lessons. That's what I put it down to. So fen beasts, or if you want to create an army of people to protect you and where you live, or fen beasts, you want to put a creature into a swamp, or to go and protect a magical item that you've hidden somewhere, just to keep people away. So that's constructs. Familiars are ace. They've really done the rules well for this, because you've got 3 different types of familiars. So the Great Familiar Ritual, there are 3 distinct types of familiar. You've got the Warrior Familiar, which is exactly how it sounds. You've got the power familiar, which basically gives you magical energy to help you cast spells. And then you've got the casting familiar, which is exactly what it sounds. It's a familiar that casts spells. So you decide what you want when you do it. You also then get to randomly roll the personality of the familiar. So the player doesn't decide, the dice decide. Again, let them roll it. Let them find. And you might not even want to tell them exactly what the personality is. I wouldn't. I'd let them work it out after by how you react to them. That's the way I would play this. You've then got your stats for your 3 different types of familiar, and you can improve them over time. But you have to give up your experience. So as a player, as you're earning experience, if you want to increase its stats or skills or learn more magic or whatever it may be, then you have to give up your experience because you're technically teaching your familiar. So I do like the fact the familiar is going to get better over time, and each familiar, depending on the wind, will be different in the way that it uses its combat powers or spells and the way it looks as well. Familiars as player characters, skip on. Don't let your players be familiars. You can if you want to. I just don't like the idea of this. I think it's very strange. It could be quite cool though if you do have one. So it's like the Batman. If you're going to play a game and people want to be Batman, then everyone else is just like some rubbish thing that runs alongside Batman. I'll be Robin, and I'll be Batgirl. But you could probably have fun with this. I think if you're going to have a major, mage character, and then each of the players run as familiars, or whether you let a player play one or more familiars, that might work well. You shouldn't really have more than one familiar as a player, as a magic caster, though. But at the end of the day, it's your world, your game. Run with it how you want. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I like the option because most games don't give the option to have it. I'm just not convinced I would want someone to actually play one, but it's got quite a few pages if you want to do it. So the winds at work. So the effects of the world of magic. So this covers environmental saturation levels. So the more wind and magical areas there are, the worse it becomes, which then affects it, makes it harder to cast spells. You're going to have more things like more thunderstorms and magic storms, blinding light, illusions in the fog, etc. You then can have environmental corruption. So if nothing stops the magic or allows the magic to build up, you get extreme saturation levels here, and then it becomes utterly corrupt, so people can't really enter the area. But it's not too bad if you're chaotic or a necromancer. So maybe if you've gone down the death route and you want to play a necromancer, maybe allow environmental corruption. Couple of adventure or encounter hooks here on dealing with corruption. Storms of magic, so if it does happen and the corruption can become too bad, or you can find the winds all combined in one area and you can have these massive magical storms that are best to avoid unless you want to turn up and just do some crazy spells because of the power that you're going to get from it. Yeah, and equally a fair chunk of corruption. Ley lines, waystones and their properties. So ley lines are the magical, as they sound, ley lines on the world. Waystones can be sort of set up to help move the way lines into different areas. And then we've got some unique magical areas that are set up. So it's a little bit complicated, this, but this little graph here, it's not a graph, diagram, let's say, shows like the way lines coming down here, and then you've got the planned way lines and moving it along with the waystones, moving it in certain directions to pull it into the Celestial Observatory. Yeah, so it does give you a good example to set it. I personally don't use this in my campaigns because I've never had a full-blown magic user going, do you know what, I want to make my own den or my realm or business where I don't want people to turn up. So I haven't gone down that far. I'm sure, given enough time, this is what Paul will be doing, who's my player that wants to go down the full-on mage route, but he's still undecided whether he's going to do a witch yet, which which is it's a different type of caster that's not covered in this book. It's covered in the main rule book, and these are magic casters that haven't been to training school. They don't use the winds to cast spells. They do other types of spells. Great vortexes. Okay, so though anyone with second sight can perceive the winds of magic flow in the direction of the Ulthernian, few are aware of the vortex. The vortex's true purpose is to keep secrets even within. It's kept secret even within the College of Magic, which causes distrust towards elves and distance those with power. So I say, because the elves know everything, they just allow the humans to have a little bit of knowledge or as much as they need it. So vortexes drain environmental saturation from a region which is planned ley-line flows. The saturation is drained at a rate of 1 level per year. So the vortexes will just make that area become more corrupt a lot quicker. And then we've got some areas, I think it's just the last few areas, isn't it? So this just then gives you a few magical areas to go into unique areas. So you've got nexuses of power, arcane fulcrums, which talk about saturated junctions, warp rifts. So you should be aware of the warp stones, which is like the big chaotic stones that are found in the ground, or well, they can be thrown out. And it's what caused the Skavens to, not that the Skavens exist, obviously, if you are a fan of Warhammer. But this book doesn't actually cover the warp stones a lot, which is, they are very much covered in the main rule book, so that's probably why it's in there. We've then got a summary here of the arcane phenomena, on how it works, the casting difficulties, channeling, how it affects you, saturation on how it corrupts the area and how long it takes, and then any sort of special effects. So if you want a summary of all of these things, really go to the table here and then go backwards in the book into the location that you want. And the last bit we've got here is just before we get into the magical nemesis and adventurers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm just going to cough, sorry. So we have 7 unique locations thrown throughout the world with some unique plot hooks for reasons to go there, things to do, to find out. Again, don't start your players off at 500 XP and then send them off to Paranoth's column to go and investigate and find out what's going there. You don't want to be doing that. These are end level sort of campaign areas to go in. They are areas of power. The Vale of the Necromancer. It sounds exactly like a place you shouldn't go to, and don't go there until you're really ready. So last section of the book, we've got magical nemesis, so adventures. So we've got 1, 2, 3, is it 4, 3, and then 2 little adventures. Again, these are incredibly powerful. You should be able to tell how powerful this is, because look how big this stat block is. and what he does, he's got 1 million wounds. 1 million wounds. He's only got 25. He'll be all right. Won't take him that long to kill him. All his skills, he's got skills here in his 90s. Yeah, don't be. That's actually a Chaos Warrior, isn't it? Now I've looked at that. Egrim Van Horseman. From my memory of Blood Bowl, a lot of the Chaos Warriors had these Van whatever names in, didn't they? So wants to be elevated to be. He wants to be a demon hood. And then we've got the Blue Scribes of Tzench. Multiple personalities, or are these going to be like the Blue Horrors? Do you think they look like Blue Horrors, don't they? And then Monamim. She's got the motivation, short-term, long-term things. She looks like an old female. She's a lizard, and some unique spells here for her. And then we've got 2 different adventures. And that's it. That gives you the end of the book and your contract for going to things. So I'm going to get back to me, and it's going to do that weird thing, I think, isn't it? As it just transfers back to me because it didn't quite work. There you go. That's worked. So that's it. That's my look at Wings of Magic. So to me, it's a must buy just for that. The little section in there, which is going to help with the Magic users. What was the price on it again? Ooh, that's a good point. I'll let me just have a look. If you get it direct from Cubicle 7, which I probably should say that's where you should shop from. Here in the UK, it is biding my time now because it's just not coming up straight away. Actually, if I put it in the search engine, that would help, wouldn't it? $28.79. What a weird price. I'm going to recommend that you have a look at places like Magic Madhouse and stuff like that, because they tend to do the books for a good sort of £5 off what Cubicle 7 have them on. But yeah, I say, even if you only pick up the PDF, to me, this is essential for it. So next week, I haven't decided what I'm going to do. So I will pick up another Warhammer book and go through that. I'll probably do a poll in the week. It's probably the best thing to do. I'll pick up a variety of like 3 or 4 different Warhammer books, and then so the plan is every Thursday, it might change to a Wednesday now and again, that I will do a different book each week until I run out of books to do, which, as you can see from behind, is going to take a long time. So you could be stuck with me for a while. But thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting, especially Agile Monk. It's great to have you over here. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. But yeah, go and buy this. Go and get Up in Arms as well, because you're going to need that for it. So if you're still here, please, and you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. My name's Adrian from Dungeon Dyslexia. I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Oh, great. From the USA. So you must be, so is it like midday-ish there, or is it late at night? I've just got to find this out now. I'm always fascinated because obviously I know it depends which coast you're on from America. So if that's £28, you're probably looking around about $22. I'm going to guess. So it's not going to be too bad. Okay, so it's afternoon. So yeah, no, thanks for watching. Tomorrow I've got another Kickstarter coming out. I'm really conscious. I've got a lot of Kickstarters and I've got a lot of money on Kickstarter at the moment, but this is one tomorrow. So I recorded it today. It's already edited, ready to go. So it will go live 6 p.m. UK time. It's actually the Kickstarter I've been waiting for nearly a year now. So that's coming out. So look out for that. And I will see you live next week. So no, good. I'm glad you do, Agile. I really like doing Kickstarters. I don't like spending the amount of money I've got on them at this moment in time. But yeah, this one's good. So, well, thank you. Oh, Neil, thank you for watching. You bought a couple because of me. Sorry. That's good. What did you get? I'm going to stay and chat now for a second. So. There's always a weird little delay, isn't there? I think I'm currently, what have I got at this moment in time? I think I've got something like 7 books on the go, which is a lot more. Bear in mind, I try to avoid doing Kickstarter for a while. Now I'm quite committed to PDFs. It's not quite as financially damaging for me, but I'm just on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9. Oh dear. Right, I'm gonna have to make a choice at some stage on whether I stay all those. Right. Well, thank you. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for being here. And so I'll see you live same time next week. Thank you for watching.